Oftentimes I come across on Facebook or on Nextdoor, question is it a good idea to buy solar? And I'm going to answer that based on I will see from a real estate point of view, and this is my own opinion. You may not necessarily agree with it, but this is based on what I'm seeing and reading. But let's just clarify what we're talking about. We're talking about solar, because generally there's two things that are solar related. The first one is related to having solar panels on your roof to heat up your pool, and we're not talking about that. That has something been in Florida for many decades. That's quite common. What we're talking about is specifically solar powers on your home, on your roof, that you use to generate energy on offset, or hopefully pay for, eliminate an electric bill. And in theory, that seems like a logical idea. I mean, Florida has a lot of sun, so it would seem to make sense that why not use the sun to produce energy to basically pay for electricity or give electricity in my home. So I personally feel that, yeah, it does kind of make sense. But when you look at the financial side of it and what's involved with that in the current market, I don't think it does. So when you ask me as a realtor, does it make sense and is it a good investment to buy solar panels? The simple answer to that question is no, it is not a good investment, and I'll explain to you the reason why. Now, if you plan on paying off completely, and if you have an intention of staying in your home indefinitely for the next 25, 30 years, then it obviously is probably a good and wise investment. The only thing is though, it still doesn't completely separate you from the electric company, because you still cannot be completely independent. You have to still be connected to the local electric service within your area. For example, within Cape Coral area, it's LCEC. In North Fort Myers and parts of Fort Myers, it's FPL. And they still will charge you a basic fee for having them, and it runs about $45, I think, currently a month right now in 2024. One of the potential issues with that is not guaranteed to stay at that same level. One thing I recently heard is, like, for example, in Tampa, I'm not sure who covers the electric grid up there, but that just simply has jumped from $45 to about $105 every month. And you don't have any control over that. So that's one of the things, you are still tied to electric grid. If the ability to have batteries to store the energy and be able to use it when we don't have the power, have the sun, whatever, and that's pretty much a good idea as well. But there are a couple different ways that you can obviously pay for panels. One, you can pay for them outright. I have sold homes that have had solar panels where they've completely been paid off. My buyers have been quite happy with that, because it means they've got free electricity, even though still already paying a basic fee with the LCEC. But some of the things you have to consider: does it add value to a home? And the general impression is yes, it does. It adds 3 to 4% to the value of a property. So let's just think about that for a minute. If you have a home that's worth $350,000 in this market, and I have a customer right now that has a home in that price point, he's given some thought to selling it. He right now has panels that cost him $40,000. And he has a loan for that as well. So let's think about that $40,000. We just said that adds 3 to 4% increase in the value of his home. So we've got $350,000 home. Let's go 4%, so that's 7. So it adds $14,000 additional value to his home, but he spent $40,000 on those panels. So that means he's losing $26,000 in value that a buyer will have to take over. Now, he's paying for those panels every month. Those particular panels cost him $240 a month, plus what he's paying. In fact, it may be less, and let's just say it's $150. I'm not really sure what it is. Okay, so let's say he's paying $150 a month for the panels, $40 a month to LCEC. So his basic electric bill is $200 every month, regardless of what happens. Now, he feels like 10, 15 years from now, that his electric bill is going to be considerably higher than where it is right now. And traditionally, electric bills do go up. They go up about 3% a year over a period of years. The other thing that you've got, like, he is now thinking about selling his house. He just put the panels on his roof. Now his insurance is up, taxes are up, things are changing. So he's given some thought to moving out the area. So what we've got a situation right now where he, as a seller, if he sells, he needs somebody that can take over that mortgage, that additional payment. Now that payment, if it's $150, $200 a month, that particular buyer has to qualify under the debt to income ratio for that particular loan in addition to their mortgage as well. This has to be figured in that. So generally what you find, if you got a buyer that's looking for a property, let's say in the 350, 400 range, they are qualified up to that range and the payment works within that for them. When they have to take an additional payment, which has to be taken into consideration, that affects their debt to income ratio, which generally means that they may no longer qualify for that property. So what that means is that my particular buyer needs to give some consideration. Does he simply pay off that loan completely? Then he can sell the house and the buyer can take it over. And we see more and more evidence where buyers or sellers, are having to pay off a loan at closing in order to have a buyer be able to buy their home. Now, I just gave an example on a $350,000 home. What if you got a $700,000 home and now you got a $60,000 investment on those panels, and we said that adds about 4% to the value of the home, so let's say $28,000. He spent $60,000, that's a $32,000 difference. And then so most of the time he's got that in the form of a loan. And again, that's to be considered whether that individual will qualify for that loan. The other thing you have to keep in mind too is that these loans will run for 20 to 25 years. And the general consensus is that most people do not stay in their home for more than 8 years or so. In the 23 plus years that I've lived in Cape Coral, I probably moved half a dozen times. I moved a lot. Okay, and there's no guarantee right now in the home I'm in, I'm going to be in here 8 to 10 years from now. I may very well not be. So if you look at yourself as an individual and say, okay, over the last 10, 15, 20 years, how many times have I moved? If you haven't moved in the last 15 years and you plan to stay in the home you're in, then it may be a good idea to have solar panels. So that's one thing you've got to consider. Am I going to be in this home long enough in order to get my money back out of it? Because the general feeling is it takes anywhere from 8, 10 to 12 years for you to break even on those panels. So that's quite a long period of time, 10 to 12 years. So you have to give that some thought too as well. The other thing you have to consider too is the age of a roof. Now, I have a brand new roof on my home, and I know from the way Florida insurance companies are that at 15 years right now, insurance companies start to freak out when you have a roof that's 15 years old. And you may be able to push it beyond that, maybe to 20 years, but at 20 years, they want a new roof, regardless. If it's a tile roof, they're looking maybe 25 years, but it's not like 30, 40 years. But typically in a 15-year period in Florida, they are going to want you to consider putting a new roof on your home. But that raises an issue. Okay, I've got solar panels. They're supposed to last 25 years. I'm 15 years into having a roof. My insurance company wants me to replace my roof. What happens with my solar panels? Well, you got to pay somebody and is willing to do that to take them off and put them back on. I'm hearing right now that sometimes the cost to do that can be as much as $10,000. Who knows what that would be 15 to 20 years from now, what that will be. So that's another thing you got to consider. Will I be in this house long enough to make it pay for itself? But also, how old is my roof too? The other thing you need to do too is go to insurance company and say, I'm thinking about putting solar panels on my roof. Will you insure them? In some cases, you find the answer to that is no. So the pool of insurance companies that we have available to insure homes is small right now. And with you creating more issues on what they will insure, that gets smaller and smaller and smaller. What it has a tendency to do, it gets more expensive. So you might find, though you may be saving money on your electric bill, you may be losing that on the insurance cost as well. The other thing you have to consider too is, will these panels last 25 years? Now, there was an article in a recent newspaper last couple months about California as an example. California was really big on putting panels on roofs about some 25 years ago. And the whole idea was they would get to the point where those panels would be recycled. Well, the problem is now we're at 25 years into that, and people have these old panels. They have no way to recycle them. They don't know what to do with them. In fact, what they're finding is some of the materials in there are not good for the environment. In fact, we hear about all the benefits of going green, whatever. You have to look at what is involved in the makeup of those panels. A lot of it is not good for our environment. So they're trying to figure out, what do we do with these panels? We haven't thought about recycling them, but we have 25 years to do it, but nobody's done anything about it, and the cost to do it, if there is, exceeds the value of them. So what are they doing with them? They're burying them. So what we thought was an answer to a problem, 25 years down the road creates an even bigger problem. So that's the thing that we don't always look at as humans. What effect does a change have on something down the future? So those things you need to consider. The other thing you have to consider too is these companies, and this is another problem too that I had in California, is that the companies that were carrying those loans and supposedly maintaining were going out of business. So when they went out of business, there was nobody to service the panels anymore. So you had these panels that weren't working properly and nobody to service them. So what that meant, this debt then was sold off to companies that considered it as an investment. They bought the debt because you're going to make payments to them, but they weren't maintaining the panels, nobody doing that. So people just paying on these panels and they can't get anybody to do anything with them. And that has been a problem in California and was discussed quite extensively. And again, it was in a newspaper article some months ago. So those are some of the issues you have to consider when you are buying panels. The other thing you have to consider too is you can buy them outright. Okay, you can do a loan on, as we said, but somebody has to be able to take over that loan. But you can also lease them. Now, leasing might seem to be a good way of doing it because it means basically you have a low payment, like when you lease a car. I've leased vehicles for years. So I have a low payment, which is less than what it cost me to own it. But obviously in 3 to 5 years, wherever my lease is up, I can replace that with another vehicle and get another lease. With a particular lease on panels, you're doing that for the life of the panels, so about 25 years or so. The other thing is those leases have an escalation clause in them, and it generally runs about 4% a year. It's higher than what a typical electric cost is. So every year it goes up about 4%. So if you amortize that over a 25-year period, if you're looking what your payment was 100 years, 1 year ago, let's say it was $100, 10 years from now, maybe $130, and it will continue to go up. Okay, but say my electric bill is going to go up too, which true, it's going to do that as well. But you have to have somebody that when you go to sell your house is qualified to take over that lease. And sometimes that can be an issue. Do they qualify the ability to do that? Again, you have to consider too that the leasing company that leases those typically maintains those particular panels. Are they going to be around for the lifetime of that particular solar panel lease? And I've got to tell you from experience, as you know, companies pretty much aren't around for that length of period of time. I'll give you an example. About 30 years ago up in Ohio, I worked at a GMC truck dealership and we sold conversion vans. One of the companies that we dealt with had a lifetime warranty on these conversion vans. So as long as you owned it, they would basically handle it. And their feeling was, and what they worked out, about every 5 years or so, 3 to 5 years, people would replace a vehicle. So rather than doing 2-3 year warranty on their interiors, they gave a lifetime one because they know that people wouldn't typically have it indefinitely. And occasionally get somebody who have it 5-10 years and they would maintain that. Unfortunately, about 10 years down the road, they go out of business. They're not in business anymore. So somebody who has that particular conversion, if they had it today, say, and they want to get it worked on it, technically it's still under warranty. They own it, lifetime's given. Well, the company's not around anymore. So that's gone. You can't handle that. So those are the issues that I see when it comes to dealing with having solar panels. And it can make it difficult, as I said, for you to go and sell it down the road, particularly if you have a loan on it. Now, if you own it outright free and clear, it's not an issue. Buyers do like it when it's completely paid off. But again, it's not something that will add value to your house. There's other things you can do to do that will give return on the money. I think right now there are too many individuals basically just trying to get people knock on your door, want to sell solar panels, whatever. And obviously there are things that I've missed where you do get a break tax advantage from the government. Or here, every year that goes by, that gets less and less. And I think in a couple of years that will go away. You also hear too, electric companies will pay you for electricity you don't use that you send to them. But a lot of those electric companies are looking to eliminate that as well. So some of the things that are available right now may not be available 5 years from now. So the key thing, if you are considering buying solar panels, and I said theoretically it should be a good idea. I mean, I think there is a good opportunity down the road when all this junk goes away and things calm down, that it probably will be a good idea. In Germany, for example, a lot of people do solar power, but it runs about $10,000 a year for that, $10,000 to do that. And there are local companies that install them, manufacture them, and maintain them. So what you need to find out, is there a local company? And there are some in the area, they've been around for many years, and those are good options. So if you're going to go solar, I will look at a company that's been around a long time. One company I think is really kind of interesting is Tesla. Tesla do panels that we know. I was in California a couple months ago, and I saw a lot of Tesla panels, and I saw a lot of Tesla batteries as well. So Tesla has been around some time. Obviously, they're doing with motor vehicles, they're doing space. So we know that Musk has a lot of fingers, a lot of different pies. So I think down the road, as technology improves, I would even consider if 15 years down the road, I'm ready to put a new roof on my home. And I know Tesla does tiles and shingles that are solar powered. And it would be interesting to see 15 years from now where we're at with that, because hopefully that technology has vastly improved, the cost is way down, and you get batteries as well. So I think that potentially, I think it is a good thing. But I don't think right now in 2024, where everything we see going on in the current real estate market, with uncertainty, with insurance, with the fact you can't be independent of the grid, with the fact that you have to finance and the cost involved and all that sort of thing, and the costs that come. I hear people get $70,000 quote for a solar panel. I mean, how many years is that going to take you to recuperate that? You need to really think about that. But I said that is my opinion as a realtor, and you may not agree with me, and you're entitled to your opinion, and we all have one, but that is mine based on what I see and feel going on. If you have any questions on this or about real estate in general, or if you disagree with me, I'm kind of interested to hear what you say, but that's just the way I feel about it right now. Will that change in a couple of years? It might, but in 2024, that's what I feel about it. Is it a good investment? No. Will it help sell your home? No. Does it add value? Yes, but not a lot. It does add value if you're owning free and clear, but you won't get your money back. But it does not add value to your home if you have a loan on it and a buyer has to take it over. But I would most definitely not recommend leasing. I would not recommend that at all. But again, as a realtor in Cape Coral, that's my opinion. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Have any other questions, let me know. Audio Jungle.